So in the last video about the new adventures of Lucky Luke, we looked at the first 26 episodes of the series. So this time around we're gonna look at the last 26 episodes. And with that also like 9 or 12 episodes which I haven't seen before. And for the record, with the last 26 episodes, I only hadn't seen 3 episodes. So a lot of new ground for me. And also the last 3 episodes which I watched for fun before I made this video are on this side of the 26 episodes. Anyway, some of these summaries are really freaking long, which means that this video is gonna be probably over an hour long. I don't know, I haven't recorded anything yet. Well, I am now recording, but not before. And when I'm writing this, there are also 9 more episodes for me to watch. Anyway, let's just get into it. So in the intro I forgot to tell one thing, and that is that I'm gonna give every year on my YouTube channel a theme. So this year it's gonna be shows and series from my youth, and this one is part of it and probably 2 or 3 more. Depends on it, but those should be a little quicker to make than this one because the episodes are shorter. Anyway, let's get into the episode because it is a pretty long summary. The Mayor. Luke gets the news that one of his friends, Calamity Jane, has a bounty for robbing the bank. Luke is looking for her, and when he finds her, she just tells Luke that Jane's former companion robbed the bank, but he was disguised as her. So Luke tries to help her whilst the sheriff is going after them and some small bounty hunter is chasing them too. In the night they escape from the town of the sheriff with the bounty hunter and sheriff still chasing them. And in the morning they are at the riverbank and fought a cougar, and after that the sheriff catches them. But he gets knocked out by the tiny bounty hunter, who is then shocked off by them but still chases them. So to try and lose them, they travel on a post carriage as aliases Mr. and Mrs. Jones. When they are on the carriage, they have to kneel to not be spotted by the sheriff, and there's another family too. The carriage gets stopped by the tiny bounty hunter, who is not menacing so as to pay for his ride and does not recognize Luke and Jane. At night they stop at basically a bed and breakfast where they sleep in a stable. But then the former associate of Jane comes, and the bounty hunter, sheriff and associate go to the stable because they found out. But Jane and Luke are gone by then. The next morning, Jane and Luke are in the same town as the ex-associate and she beats the crap out of him. Then the sheriff comes and arrests the associate, and the bounty hunter who later arrives after the gunfight with Luke. I will be combining the separate lists at the end of the video, by the way, like LS Mark always does with his big rankings. But in this episode, Jane is really charming. She's the opposite of Luke, but has almost the same skill levels. They work good off each other and definitely had encounters before this episode. And I believe she appeared in some comics, but I ain't quite sure. So let's move on. So, Indian romance. I can only guess what it's about. Anyway, the mayor of a city nearby a fort hasn't heard of Commander McAllister, and he thinks that the Indian tribe might have killed him. So he sends Luke to visit. When Luke arrives, he gets told that there is nothing going on, but this fort is half destroyed. And when the mother of McAllister arrives, Luke gets sent away and visits the Indians, where he also gets sent away. And at night, the Indian leader pays a visit to the fort because he is in a relationship with the mother of McAllister. But both the Indians and McAllister don't support the relationship. In the night, the mom of McAllister dresses as a member of the cavalry and tells that she is going to save Soldier Ryan from Saving Private Ryan, if you didn't get it. And she kidnaps the Indian leader so that they can get married. But as it's night, the Indian leader can't read the sign which has no carriages, so they fall through a bridge. But Luke saves them and drives them to Mortimer, which is the name from the funeral guy of a few episodes ago. But the Indians and McAllister think they died and declared war to each other. So Luke, the Indian leader, and the mom of McAllister stop the war with blowing up all munition. But they still try to fight. But in the end, Everyone, including McAllister, sits in the Indian camp below the last one. I liked the working of Jane's and Luke's characters a little more than this one, but it's still a solid episode. Luke finds a French singer called Lola Montes, who thinks that she and her companion Eugene bought a gold mine, but it's abandoned, meaning no gold. So they move on to the next saloon, and she gets to sing there. And she becomes a hit with the men. But the older women aren't so keen on Lola, because she is stealing all the spotlight. The next day, Eugene stole that poker face from the last video, can buy the mine off him, as Lola wants to be romantically involved with Luke. But Luke doesn't want to be in love with Lola, and the guy who told Eugene that Pokerface wanted the mine puts some gold in the mine, so everyone in the town goes there. And the guy robs the entire town. And when people return to the town, they think that Eugene stole their stuff, but Luke gives them the criminal, and Eugene is spoken free. The next day, Eugene leaves because Lola wants to be with Luke, so Luke makes a plan to get them back together. He acts like a freak, and Lola and Eugene are back together. Until the end montage, which this episode has, where it's revealed that Lola got in love with General George Custer, and Eugene became a successful artist in France. And Luke lives as a poor lonesome cowboy, under the mayor. A journalist called Luke, I'll refer to him as the journalist to stop confusion from happening, found something out about a Martian. There was a farmer who got his cow stolen by a weird-looking octopus humanoid being. As everyone in the town is now afraid of the Martians, and Luke goes to the locations of the first sighting of the Martians, as the journalist, farmer and townspeople are all on the field, and we see that some guy put on a costume to make it look like he's an alien. So the next day, an Indian who can quote-unquote protect them from the weird green guy scams people. Just after that, a woman from the East Coast who is on an alien research lab comes here to investigate. There's also this moment where Luke like a Looney Tunes.
Kun je hem een zetje geven? Dit is het werk van buitenaardse wezens.
The woman is convinced by the leader because of a carpet. As they go to the saloon, everyone is thinking that everyone is the Martian, and they leave the town. But after that, tourists come to see aliens, and at night Luke sees the Indian scam guy make a crop circles, so he gets arrested, and the townspeople move back to try and execute him. But Luke saves him because the Indian isn't behind the Martians themselves, so he gets back and Luke arrests the alien guy. By the way, the alien guy tries to remove/kill the farmer as he wants to farmer's property because there's oil underneath it. But as the guy is in prison and everything goes back to normal at the end, I'll put this episode top of the list. I love the alien spin and the mystery is great. Whilst the Daltons are in prison, Everall gets struck by lightning and is smart now. So they escape from prison and Everall is now the leader of the Daltons. And he suggests that they go to rob Fort Knox, as Luke is trying to catch the Daltons. But when the Daltons go to the town where the door and locks for Fort Knox and the prison were made, so they can encounter Luke. But Luke doesn't see them, so Everall goes and sabotage his gun, as they are dressed up as random guys. And when the Daltons get Luke away from the doors and lock store, through a fake telegram they go and see the plans for Fort Knox. But as the Daltons walk away, Everall gets struck by lightning again, so he's stupid again. The first thing they think of is kidnapping the medicine man of a random Indian tribe. So when Luke hears this, he tries to find the Indian and finds him. But the Daltons are long and gone. So then Luke finds out that the Daltons need electricity. So he starts thinking about it and asks the medicine man to perform the rain dance. But Renton Can is electrocuted and is smart now and is helping Luke. Then the Daltons go to the home of a fucking scientist and use a machine to electrify Joe, and it doesn't work. But Avril gets smarter due to the machine being too powerful. And when Luke arrives at the home and goes to Fort Knox, because the Daltons are there already. But when the Daltons are just about to open the door, Avril gets stupid again, so they use the machine which he took and they open the safe. But Avril gets stupid again and they don't know how to get the goods on the carriage they found. And just then Luke arrives. But Luke's gun is still sabotaged. But Luke still catches them and everything is back to normal after Rin Ken goes back to normal as well. The end. This episode is filled to the brim with events, which is fun but hard to keep track of. And for that, it's Under the Mare. Luke encounters a sheep farmer who lost one of his sheep and blames the so-called Beast of Alabama. So they go to the nearest town where there's a bunch of cow owners who sort of bribe the sheriff, but not really, because they hate sheep. As more sheep disappear, the cow gang or cow owners get more and more suspicious, although we already saw that they pretended to be the beast. Then they hire an animal hunter to kill the beast at his next strike. But when they are testing new traps, Rin Ken sees and grabs the cow gang leader by the show and takes him to Luke. He says that he was hunting the beast, which they believe, and for now he can go. The next day the guy finds tracks of the beast, and they see the cow gang members dressed up as the beast. After another false accuse to the sheep get banned from the town. But just that day, a cow gets killed, and in a meeting it gets revealed to Luke that the beast is the cow gang. And the leader of the cow guys goes to the sheep farmer to apologize for his actions, and they build a variable meat market in the town. The end. Fun episode, second half of the series is better so far. Let's hope that it stays like that, and it's just going above Lola Montes.
Oh my god, Stewie! You're choking!
Soaring through the air!
So this will be a kinda complicated voiceover part, but it's also one of the shortest sections of an episode, maybe except the next one after this. But there are two brothers who own a hot air balloon and make an unbreakable safe. To prove that the safe is unbreakable, one of them uses the balloon to free the Daltons. Then the Daltons don't want to go rob the safe and then they go away. This happens once more, but that time they stole the balloon and had a shootout with Luke. Then they get dared to rob the safe and go there. They fail though, as they abandon the balloon, which gets stolen by an Indian tribe, and blow themselves and the safe up, which lands back in prison. And those Indians ended up in Russia, which was kind of funny. Actually, that's how you can describe this episode as a whole. Funny. There are loads of jokes, and for that, it's going just above the Beast of Alabama.
Honey!
What?
Where's my super suit?
What?
Where is my super suit?
So American spies made a bulletproof suit, which was stolen by a corrupt spy. They call Luke over and ask him to get the suit back, which he accepts.
You're in luck, friend. The Secret Service takes care of you.
So when the corrupt spy finds out that Luke is following him, he tries to kill Luke, which doesn't work. But then he goes to a Mexican general to sell the suit, which Luke tries to stop, but it fails because of the suit. But then the spies and Luke find out that water shrinks the suit, so they use water and get the suit back. The end. So this episode is jam-packed with all kinds of weird technology, and even a submarine. It's an average episode, so I'll put it under the Beast of Alabama.
It's my job to sit on a BMX bike outside the rec center and ask every kid if they're the new kid. Hey, you the new kid?
So two boys read a book about Billy the Kid, which says that he's a tough criminal. That same day, the real Billy gets sent to jail by Luke, but gets freed by the boys who want to be Billy. So they rob a bank until Billy gets sent back to prison and the boys are both punished by their dad and disappointed about Billy. That's where it should have ended, but filler. So now the boys want to be like Luke. So to prove they are worth, they need to arrest a criminal and free Billy so they can recapture him, which fails. And Luke saves the boys. The end. Except it isn't the end. As Billy is sent to jail, he and Luke come across the author of the book and he asks to Luke if he can, let's just say, talk to him about something, which he may. The end. Pretty good one, except for the filler, but the ending was kinda satisfying, I'll give it that. So Luke walks into a town with renting can. But in that town there are elections for president between Grant and General George Custer. I like how they draw the people who are behind Custer and the people who are behind Grant blue and red, like in the Civil War. So when Luke meets Custer, there's a picture moment. But when an article about the picture is written, Luke steals the show from Custer. So Custer wants to become as popular as Luke, so he tries to arrest a criminal by first freeing him from jail. How many fucking times has this show used this trope? First freeing a criminal and then arresting him again, but failing and Luke has to get him. That's the biggest plot point which they use in this show. There have been like 6 instances of this. And it's not even that good, because you know exactly that Luke is gonna catch him. That's almost a running gag or plot point at this point. But Luke captures him, of course. Also, Custer recognizes Renting Can and he wants him gone for what happened to Custer in the episode Fort Custer from my last episode about the new adventures of Lucky Luke. But now Luke has stolen the show, so Custer goes to the next town with his train. And without anyone except Luke noticing, Renting Can jumps aboard the train. So Luke chases the train. And when he gets to the train, he finds Renting Can and Custer, who is captured by the Indians, so Luke saves him. Then Custer destroys his election chances by saying that he will kill every last dog because of Renting Can. But in the end, he might save himself because of a new mission from the army. The end. So this is a pretty cool episode, I would say just under the kids gang. But they need to stop using the plot point, which I said earlier in this voiceover part.
Of course you realize this means war.
So Luke encounters a Chinese doctor who wants to open an Eastern medical shop in a mine town. But there are 2 other doctors in the town. One girl and one scammer guy, who sells fake elixirs. The guy also appeared in the comments and an old Lucky Luke show, probably from 1990 or 1948, I'm not sure which one of these. But they steal each other clients for a while, until a man gets stuck in a mine, so Luke and the 3 doctors go and save him. But when the pillar in the mine almost breaks, the scammer dude seeks his chance by breaking the pillar and flees. But when the rest escapes a few minutes later, the guy is sent to prison. The end. So this is pretty mid-episode. It's like the worst interpretation of the episode where the saloons fight over a movie, which we talked about in the last video about this show. But I think it's just above spice.
I'm a poor lonesome cowboy.
So I actually used the Lucky Luke intro sound or outro sound from this show for the Dalton's Cowboys. So a ranch owner comes to the idea that the Daltons can go into rehab at his ranch, with Luke watching them. As they arrive, we meet the daughter of the ranch owner called Cynthia, who falls in love with Everall, so he can do fun things and get food, whilst the rest has to work their ass off. But Everall doesn't like being with Cynthia, so he escapes, but gets sent back, and when he arrives he calls Cynthia bad names, so it's over. But at the night, Joe and Jack make an Everall-sized jacket guy, so they go to Cynthia, who forgives, let's just say, Everall, and they want to escape together. But Joe says that he will need some money, so they open the ranch owner's safe. But then Luke walks into the room and is hit out by Cynthia, only for her to find out the Daltons are robbing them. So they escape. So the next day Luke wakes up and wants to go and catch the Daltons, only to find out that Cynthia has already catched them. The end. So this was a pretty good premise, only they need to do an actual plot, so they introduce Cynthia, which I didn't really like. So I'm gonna say bottom of the list, but don't get me wrong, this pack of episodes is more competitive so far than the last pack of episodes. So bottom of the list isn't even that bad. So in my last video, I thought an episode was called A Cannon for the Daltons, only to find out after my editing process that the episode wasn't called that. In fact, this episode is called like that. And now this time I used the same sound effect for the change between episodes. Just quick facts there. But can you guess what this episode is about? Anyway, the army has a new toy, a giant freaking cannon. When the Daltons see it, they want to steal it, and during a test on some Indians remind that, the cannon rolls off and the Daltons manage to get it. So now Luke is after them, and the army, Indians and Daltons are all trying to keep the cannon. But in the end, Luke arrests the Daltons and one Indian is sent flying. But then Luke, the Indians and the Daltons are almost put on a fire stack as the army wants to execute everybody who saw the cannon. But then he sees a new guy coming to him, who he thinks is a spy, so he threatens him. But it turns out to be President Grant, who lets the Indians free and sends the army general and the Daltons to prison for causing too much damage. And in the end, there is one gag with the Indian who was sent flying, arriving in France and getting woken up by a guy called Maurice. That might not say much to you, but the guy who first wrote the Lucky Luke comments was called Morris, which stands for Maurice. Anyway, I like this one, so I'll put it just under Custermania. So the Daltons escape from prison to go to Utah, the only state where they aren't wanted. And of course Luke is after them. So when they try and get a wagon, they run into this guy called Goodfella. He scams people by saying that he is giving money to charity in France. Well, he says that the French are poor, which they kinda are in language. And he continues to make fun of French cuisine. I'll show the screen right now.
Dear friends, far away from here, across the ocean, on an old and venerable continent, there's an itty-bitty country known as France. The men and women of that wretched land live in such poverty, such hardship, that they're reduced to eating frogs' legs and snails. Some of them have even stooped to eating moldy cheese and the livers of diseased ducks.
There's also a girl who actually helps charity and believes that Goodfella and the Daltons are going to help her with her charity show. Luke decides to wait for when they cross a state border so he can lock all four of them in prison, and Goodfella. That happens in the final when Goodfella decides to steal the money and flee, but the Daltons follow him to then accidentally cross the border and throwing the money into the water. So Luke now arrests them. The end. So this was a good one. I will put it above War of Medics. So this episode might be called Trappers, in which case it's called Trappers, like I just said. Or it might not be, because I don't even know anymore, as I put in my notes, I'm not sure of the name. So Luke is chasing a criminal called No Way, who just robbed the bank. In the forest whilst chasing No Way, he stumbles across a hunter, who is trapped in his own trap. That sounds like Trappers is the title. When he is freed by Luke, No Way is gone, and Luke is left with the hunter. The hunter, named Flood, says that he is very tough while he can't even survive on his own while hunting. So together they hunt after No Way. different kind of hunting. They aren't gonna eat him or rob him for his pelt. That would be cannibalism. But at some point, Luke is in a standoff with No Way, and Flood is hunting some beavers. But then the sons of the owners of the land where they are standing comes and tries to sort of arrest them for hunting on their property. So Luke and Flood get taken away whilst No Way can escape. So they get taken to the real landowner, basically they're dead. But whilst Luke and Flood are nearly getting killed, No Way accidentally sets the house of the landowner on fire. So Luke and Flood escape. They also find out that there's a competition for hunters in a town called Skin City. And Luke takes a guess that No Way is there. So they also make their way over and enter the competition. So if you win the competition, you receive 10 mil. And they win the competition, but Luke is better than Flood in every round of the competition. After the competition, Luke catches No Way, who was trying to escape with the $10,000. And he is sent to prison. Then we cut to Flood having a clothing shop in Washington DC, and that's the end. So pretty good, just under spice. This was the last episode I saw before making this video and last video about the same subject. I just wanted to say that, so you know. Anyway, let's get into the story. The vice president accidentally declares the Daltons dead, which means that they can no longer be held in prison and are set free. So they didn't even have to escape to change it up this time. And the entire West now believes that the Daltons are dead. So Luke reads the paper and comes across two ghost hunters who want to take a picture of, well, ghosts. So when Luke encounters the Daltons, he is confused before realizing that it must have been a mistake. But the rest of the West still thinks that the Daltons are the ghost of the Daltons. So Luke tries to catch the Daltons, who just escaped him, and goes after them with the two ghost hunters before following him. When he finds the Daltons in a ghost town, how fitting, he takes them to the vice president to sign a paper which states that the Daltons are alive. And he takes them back to prison. And the ghost hunters stay in the town they are in right now. The end. So this one was alright. But like I said before, the second bunch so far is very competitive. So it's going bottom of the list. Not bad by any means, just lacking a little. So I severely hope that the Crown Witness isn't as bad as the Crown Princess from the first episode of me covering this show. Anyway, so Luke has to help escort a small guy called Oscar and his wife to Saint Bob, because he has to witness for a case. So they get on a cavalry train to get there, as quick as possible. But Oscar screws up, because he is incompetent. But he screws up by hitting the cavalry leader in the face with a door. So now they grab their horses and escape the train, with the cavalry leader close behind. But there's also a hitman on Oscar, as he gets paid by the guy who Oscar is witnessing against in the case. So the three of them get chased by the cavalry leader and the hitman. So they go to a nearby town to restock on water, but in the town they encounter a mad saloon guy. And they also encounter the other two chasers. And it results in a short but tense shooting scene, which I'll show on the screen right now.
Well, don't this just beat all? I came here for water, but I never thought I'd find you. Come here, Tiny Boots, unless you want to become a widower.
But if I do, you'll make her a widow.
What a dilemma.
Hey, you, they're ours. Oh, no, I was here first. I came from New York.
Should have known from the get-go you was a tenderfoot, too. Let's tar and feather the whole lot of them. Get to all deserters!
So as you can see, Luke, Oscar and Oscar's wife escape. And they want to save some time by going through Indian territory. But they get captured and the normally neutral Indians are angry because their snail is sick. So Oscar says he can save him if they let them go, because Oscar is specialized in snails. So he does that, and they can continue to Saint Bob, which is a funny name to me, as many friends from my school call me Bob, as like 2 years ago a guy couldn't remember my name, which is Ben, and called me Bob. Anyway, they get to Saint Bob, and Oscar witnesses against the guy, and he gets sent to jail for like 67 years. The end. So this was a very enjoyable adventure, as Oscar is incompetent but not annoying like many other incompetent characters. So I will put this one above the mayor. So when the Daltons escape from prison, they encounter a woman who is chased by bandits, and she gives her baby to Joe, as she thinks that nobody wants to try and steal him from the Daltons. Then they rid the baby at the home of some farmers, until realizing later on that if some bandits are after him, that the baby must be worth a fortune. So they take care of it and rob stores just for baby stuff, which is pretty funny. So they protect it until they get some money for it when the bandit shows up. So Joe trades the baby for $75,000 until the other Daltons say that they should keep the baby. So they grab the baby again and run away. But when Luke catches them, they need to give the baby to Luke. But the bandits arrive and the mother arrives, which means that the situation gets complicated. But the Daltons get sent to prison, with Joe also mourning over the fact that they can't see the baby anymore. Good one, just under the last one, Crown Witness.
Leaky!
Shut up, foreigner!
So a black farmer walks through a town with his cow, but cause he's black he needs to pay $5,000 and gets his cow taken away. Not racist at all. So he wants help and gets a lawyer. Chin Chin, remember from the first episode of the show? Not sure if you remember, not sure if you even watched the first part at all. Not sure if anyone even watches this part at all, and not even sure if anyone makes it past 5 minutes. Then again, this is YouTube and the algorithm can troll you sometimes, so it might be a good episode for my views. Anyway, in the first part of these 2 videos I talked about this episode. They get covered in feathers after a cool fighting scene, by the way. So they go to Luke and get a proper case ready. When the farmer wants to take his cow back, he accidentally sets the other cows free as well, who were all in a pen together, resulting in him getting thrown into jail. The next day there's a shootout between Luke and Chin Chin, and the sheriff, who is corrupt and racist. At some point, the jail gets put on fire because of a lamp falling over. So now the farmer and the dad are stuck. By the way, the farmer had been thrown in jail together with the dad of the sheriff. Yeah, I don't know, I probably messed up my notes. Not probably, I messed them up. But Luke saved them. Luke saves the farmer, who is on his turn to save the dad. The next day, the case is happening, and the sheriff thinks that he has won this already, as the judge is corrupt. But because the dad got saved, he screams for justice, and the entire room except the sheriff agrees. And in the end, the farmer even settles down. So this was a pretty mid episode, even if it's cool to see Chin Chin again. But I'm gonna put it bottom of the list. But not bad, just mid. So we see an archaeologist, who finds the mummified remains of an old Indian leader, which he wants to take to the DC. And he encounters Luke in a town. So they go together to Santa Fe so the archaeologist can catch his train. As he passes through the territory of the Indian tribe. But an Indian rides with him too, as he doesn't know that he is Indian. Well, the Indians steal the talisman, which is the thing that he found around the neck, so basically a necklace. As it makes the person who wears it the leader of a large chunk of land. And with large, I mean he is the leader of all North American Indian tribes when you wear the talisman. So the cemetery or funeral guy tells him that the talisman is stolen by Luke. The funeral guy followed them, by the way, I forgot to tell that. Yes, this episode is gonna be complicated, I know. So at the tribes camp, the Indian dude is wrapped in bandages and placed like a mummy. But when Luke and the archaeologist arrive, they find out that he isn't the mummy. After that, they negotiate over who gets the mummy, as the archaeologist wants it in a museum, and the Indians want it at their camp. So Luke comes with a solution: build a museum for Indian artifacts at the camp. And the cemetery or funeral guy gets sent to prison. The end. Pretty fun one, especially as I always wanted to be an archaeologist when I was younger. So I'm gonna put it just above the mayor. But it's pretty complicated to follow, so I would suggest you just going to watch this episode, like right now. I don't even give a shit if you don't come back to this episode. Just go watch it.
It's over, Anakin! I have the high ground!
So there's this guy with no luck called Otto, who can hypnotize people. So he tries to use that to rob the saloon. Sadly for him, Luke is in the same saloon, so he gets arrested. When in jail, he works together with the Daltons to hypnotize the guards and escape to hypnotize Luke because they both want revenge. So when they escape, they try to lure him into a town where they can hypnotize all the townspeople so that they want to kill Luke. But they fall asleep in time. Because they were hypnotized for too long, they fall asleep. That's just what happens when you're hypnotized for too long. But when Joe asks to be hypnotized, so he shoots faster than Luke. And he shoots Luke's gun out of his hand. But he can't aim and misses all his bullets. But they still tie him up. And Otto can't hypnotize anymore. Because he hypnotized himself to be lucky. So the Daltons ditch him because they think Everall can hypnotize. But when they find out that he can't, it's too late and they get arrested. After that, Luke arrests Otto, who is asleep. And that's the end. Pretty mid episode, I didn't really like it. So bottom of the list, but not bad at all, it's just mid.
Sing us a song, you're the piano man.
So Billy the kid that is, not Billy Joel like you just heard, gets thrown into the same prison as the Daltons. And they can't decide who is the better criminal of the two. So they make a bet. The first one to kill Luke wins. So they start, and before you know it, they both find Luke. As he is about to be shot by almost 5 people, he says something smart. It's a tight score, because they both didn't instantly shoot him, which makes no sense, but these criminals are dumb as shit, so he managed to survive. But instead they have to do another game. Scare as much people as possible without harming them. And whoever has the most people scared without harming them can kill him. But when they are waiting to start, Luke tries to free himself in a really tense scene. But he frees himself and brings them in prison. There's a meta joke in here somewhere, which I show on the screen right now.
I'm a bold lonesome cowboy.
Wat krijgen we nou? Het verhaal duurt toch meestal langer dan dit?
As Jolly Jumper said, there is more. Because when they reach a new town at night, the townspeople have a bet on either the Daltons or Billy the Kid. So they free them and make sure Luke sleeps before giving them a new challenge. Whoever can rob the most money from banks and stores wins. But it backfires as they rob the town of accounts. So they wake up Luke and arrest them at the end.
Ik kom al, ik kom al!
So we'll put it just above the middle. A bone for the Daltons. And here is your warning, because I will be very unbiased with these last 4 episodes. Because these were the one I used to watch whenever I wanted to watch Luke. Anyway, if I had a nickel for every time the New Adventures of Lucky Luke did an archaeology episode, I'd have 2 nickels. Which isn't a lot, but it's still weird that it's happened twice. But there's this guy called Gasbank, was constructing an underground telegraph circuit next to the prison so the Indians won't cut the cables. But when digging in the prison they find an Indian structure, so an archaeologist is called and it's the one from the Great Nose of the Talisman. Anyway, when the Indians who live nearby pick up on this, they aren't happy. So they do some negotiations. But they get permission to dig. Because the only thing Indians want is 50% of the earnings. So they continue digging, but for that to happen, the prison has to be moved for extra space to dig. Anyway, gasbags want to continue digging with the underground telegraph network, not with the archaeologist side. So he throws the crown jewel of the collection away, which is a jawbone which shows that the Indians relate to all other human races. But because the bone is gone, the expedition is cancelled. Well, the archaeologist absolutely destroys the land around the prison because he wants to find it, although Rintincan had it all along. The end. This one was fun, especially with all the different ideas being put together from all the different people and perspectives, but it ends a little abruptly. So I'm gonna put it under the Great Nose of the Talisman, the other archaeology episode. So the daughter of a cavalry leader is kidnapped by some Indians. So the guy sets up a campaign to free her. And the only 4 people who enter the cavalry are the Daltons, because if they are successful, their sentence gets cut in half. Which is still like 7 million years or something, but I don't know. So they start training, and after a while Luke gets sent there so they can go to the camp. But the Daltons constantly try to escape, and at some point it actually worked. Just after that, the cavalry leader and Luke get captured before getting freed by the daughter. So after that, the Daltons arrive at the Indians' camp to kill the cavalry leader and Luke, but are just too late as Luke has his gun ready and arrests them. So this is a episode between mid and good. Because the Dalton plot is cool, but the cavalry leader and his daughter are so freaking annoying. I will put it just above the Revenge of the Daltons. This is definitely the outlier of the pack of biased episode. So I just decided to put a bell there for no reason. I just wanted to, because I wanted to. Definitely good reasons. Anyway, this USA has too little education, which is still a problem right now, as you can see how stupid some of those people are on YouTube. And I currently have 0 subscribers left. Anyway, we follow one of the teachers who got robbed by the gang of a guy called Jolly Jim Potbelly. I will call him Jim because his name is so fucking long. But the 3 guys get arrested and taken to jail. And Jim doesn't like that, and he tries to stop him from educating the people by threatening him. But it doesn't work. So they start the first lessons in the saloon, as there is no school. And Luke has to be pupil as well. Luke is there, by the way, because it's the New Adventures of Lucky Luke and not of the Daltons or something. Of the New Adventures of the Schoolmaster. No, that wouldn't work. So mid-lesson, Jim tries to kill the teacher, but Luke saves him and the saloon. But at night, Jim strikes again. And he kidnaps the teacher and puts him in ice cold water until Luke saves him. But that was just a distraction to save his gang members who got put in jail. The next day, the teacher is sick because of the ice cold water. So Luke replaces him as he's the only one who has enough knowledge to get good grades in the entire town. But during the lesson, they get attacked by Jim. But the townspeople are fed up with Jim. So the townspeople attack his gang and they are forced to rebuild jail, which is destroyed in the escape of the gang members. And after that, they build a school. The end. So this was a golden episode. I laughed at it like 3 times, so it's top of the list. So the transcontinental railway has to be completed. And a rich wood guy and a rich steel guy both want to make their bridge over the Sequoia Bay. So they make it a competition to see who can complete their bridge the fastest. And that bridge wins. And gets to be the bridge where the transcontinental rail line runs over. And Luke has to protect the men from the Indians. But when he finds one lone Indian who tells Luke that there is a fault line, so no bridge is safe to build. But no one would listen, not even the president. So they build 2 bridges and sabotage each other. Until the steel team runs out of steel and the wooden bridge collapses because of an earthquake. So they work together to finish the bridge. But at the day of the opening there is an earthquake and the edge of the cliff collapses. So now there's just one bridge standing and Luke and the Indian are just talking to each other and chilling on a hill. Which feels like the best way to end the series. Although I don't know which episode is actually the last one. Anyway, here's the final ranking on the screen right now from this bunch of episodes. And it was definitely a better bunch than the first one. So let's get on to the final ranking right now. So I kinda just forgot that I wanted to change some things about, well, the list of today, the video today. Not from the last one, I believe I didn't change anything. Anyway, I just didn't really change that much, but 2 episodes have a better or worse position. Number 1, I have put A Cannon for the Daltons higher up the list. Because I thought about it and liked it more than I said initially. Same thing for Dalton Jr., but in the opposite direction, as it isn't that special as I thought about it. So, the list which you saw just now, from this video, is the correct list and I have already moved the things around on that list. So here is gonna be the final ranking of the 52 episodes. From 52nd to 1st. The Promised, Unlucky in Love, The Last Bison, The Crown Princess, Ghost and Pipes, The Commodore, The Revenge of the Daltons, Don Quixote del Texas, The Dalton Soldiers, The Return of Leaky Leaky, Lucky Luke vs. Sherlock Holmes, The Daltons Ghost, The Daltons Cowboys, Indian Romance, Lola Montes, Fort Custer, Trappers, Spies, War of the Medics, Leaky Leaky, The Treasure of the Daltons, Charity Dalton, The Beast of Alabama, The Daltons Rise in the Air, A Jackpot for the Daltons, Dalton Jr., The Daltons Christmas, Custermania, A New Dad for the Daltons, Desperados Union, Cuff Love, The Kids Gang, The Daltons Indians, The Flying Cowboy, The Mayor or A Wanted Woman, The Daltons vs. Billy the Kid, A Bone for the Daltons, The Daltons See Double, Neither Dalton nor Master, The Battle, Lucky Luke meets Lucky Luke, Justice for the Daltons, The Great Nose of the Talisman, Crown Witness, Vultures in the Plains, Hooray for Hollywood, A Cannon for the Daltons, Martian Theory, For a Fistful of Daltons, Indian Roulette, Lucky Luke in Alaska, Sequoia Bay, The Schoolmaster. So I want to thank you all for my first series ranking. Applause. Yeah, anyway, thanks for watching this episode. Thanks for hopefully watching the other episode. There will be another episode in this theme where I rank an entire series. I don't know, maybe I'll put a hint on the screen right now. Stefan knows it. If Stefan puts it in the chat down below, I'm gonna be mad. Stefan, don't you dare. Because Stefan is probably gonna guest star in one episode which we review. The episodes there will be shorter, by the way. And I'll get that finished. I won't know if I can review a third show this year, but if not, I'll continue this theme of childhood shows into next year. And then I'll add a fourth show. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please click subscribe and like. I don't know why I'm begging, because you probably clicked off, as we are already in the 94 minutes marking, maybe even the 50, I don't even know. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope you'll have a nice one. Goodbye now.